Russian President Vladimir Putin has taken on the West once again over the crippling sanctions.
In the past months alone, wheat prices have increased by 22%, maize by 21%, and barley by 31%.
My advice would be to create permanent bases, but don't permanently station.
China has reiterated that the Xi Jinping administration objects to any sanctions against Russia.
Many people understand, China is preparing for war with the United States in Asia, and if and when that happens, they want Russia as their partner.
The Biden administration will send another $100 million worth of these very effective Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine.
They will regroup and they will mount another assault on the country. I don't see any prospect of a peace deal in the foreseeable future.
Wars change, wars evolve. And this war has changed and evolved.
300 people had been killed in Bucha and vowed to bring the concerned Russian troops to justice over the alleged atrocities.
This town is now one big crime scene.
The prospect of nuclear conflict, once unthinkable, is now back within the realm of possibility.
Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So this is your daily World War III, World War Z update. We have a lot to talk about today. So much that it's going to be just shotgun facts, bullet points today, because there's just too much to talk about and there's not enough time to go into the depth that I need to in order to do these topics justice. But guys, stick around. Now, if you didn't catch my last video, please go and watch it. If you're somebody who is anxious when you watch these videos, if at the end of watching these videos you feel compelled to do irrational things like, going and burning your life savings on gold or something like that, think twice before you do it. This channel is not meant for financial advice. This channel is meant to help you see what is coming next, to be aware of what's around the corner and resolve uncertainty and ambivalence about the future so we can reduce anxiety. Because if you're prepared, you have nothing to worry about. You should be out there enjoying your life. And like I said, if this makes you anxious, I would rather you be in a blissful state of ignorance. Now, if you like being anxious like some people do, okay, fine. But this information shouldn't make you anxious. It should pique your interest and you should be concerned about it, but that's not anxiety. Now, I want to show you guys something before we start this video. Dean from Marcopia Family Freeze Dried, if you don't recall, he was the guy who we did a video with a few months back. He was showing off his passive solar greenhouse. We're going to go back there and see what it looks like now in spring. But we were having a conversation earlier today, and he gave me one of these gold backs. Some of you have probably seen these. It's 1/1000th troy ounce. I got a few now because Ron over at Atlas Survival gave me a few as well. And we got to talking about the coming collapse of the US dollar and why that could be right around the corner. And he also gave me this. This is a silver certificate. Okay, this used to be redeemable for silver, and it still is, okay? But it used to be backed by a precious metal. It's not backed by a precious metal anymore. Now we have Federal Reserve notes, okay? This is going to become important later in today's discussion. But the gist of what's going on right now, guys, is that the US dollar is the global reserve currency primarily because the US has, or had, and still does have to some degree, one of the greatest militaries that's ever been known to the world, okay? And as a result of that, you want to put your money where the biggest military is in order to defend that money. And because the US military is guarding the vault, and because they provide the world a nuclear umbrella and petrodollars, of course, countries want to trade in petrodollars, they can basically inflate the money supply into perpetuity without much consequence, so long as they can remain the top dog and so long as nations need their dollars to trade in petro. Now, what NATO has done as of late has potentially shot itself in the foot, because all of these promissory notes that have been issued to countries in order to buy petro may well be being called back as Russia and China and India and Pakistan and different countries in Southeastern Europe, African countries, Southeast Asia, pretty much everywhere else is now going to be trading more in rubles because they need the grains, the raw materials, the metals, the precious metals, the minerals, all those things that Russia can provide. They need those things. And as a result, this whole petrodollar hegemony is potentially on the brink of collapse. So we need to be very mindful right now that one of the most precious investments you can make, I personally think, is going to be food. Food, namely freeze-dried food, to be brutally honest, because the reason why freeze-dried food is so great is because it lasts so long. I mean, it lasts 25 years. And I can only imagine what the price of some of these things is going to be in 25 years. But food right now, I would say you cannot go wrong buying non-perishable food at this stage in the game. The UN is saying that the cost of wheat, I believe, has gone up 22% in the last month. The cost of maize, 21%. The cost of barley, 31% in 1 month. 1 month. And this is supposed to be the planting season. This is supposed to be when Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan get out there with the plows and they get the seeds in the ground. What's going on right now? Well, the war is going on. And all of these sanctions and trade embargoes and all this stuff, which is going to complicate the process of bringing these prices down to a more affordable level to prevent riots like we're seeing in Peru right now. Peru is on fire. Countries are starting to become inflamed because the price of living is getting too hot. Just watch what happens in the next few months as these developing countries are faced basically with famines. That's what's going to happen. Even Kazakhstan is restricting exports of food now. In addition to Russia, of course, only going to be exporting if countries trade in rubles, as well as their oil and natural gas. They're not going to use dollars anymore. They've lost all confidence in the US dollar system when they basically had the US essentially confiscate $300 billion that they may never see again. So Russia will never, ever in the history of their existence trust NATO again. And it may well be our undoing because this was a gamble. People say it was the Russian gambit, but really right now with NATO, with these sanctions, it's a NATO gambit. Because the outcome of this, guys, with India, China, Pakistan, these nuclear powerhouses, essentially, with huge populations, okay, they're going to start to realize that, hey, we don't need NATO anymore. What do? We make YouTube videos. That's our contribution to the world. They actually create stuff. They mine stuff. And yes, Canada, we mine stuff as well. We're like a gas station without nukes. You know how they call Russia a gas station with nukes? We're a gas station without nukes. We also produce a lot of wheat. The province I live in is one of the primary producers of potash. I believe we're like one of the most densely concentrated producers of potash and uranium. So Saskatchewan, guys, we have the most uranium deposits. We have among the most potash deposits. So the future of nuclear power and the ability to grow food is based out of the province that I live in. So we have the raw materials and the minerals in order to do it. The problem is that we are way, way over here, apart from the rest of the world, who, because of the high price of shipping stuff, even if we are able to get grain, and even if we do have some good seasons left, in spite of the worst mega drought in 1,200 years continuing to afflict southwestern United States, as well as what probably soon is going to be draining the Ogallala aquifer, the water aquifer there that basically feeds the Midwest, the breadbasket of North America. The cost of shipping food out there is through the roof. So even if you can grow the food, to get it overseas is going to be through the roof. So it's still going to be unaffordable to these developing nations. And when things are unaffordable, civil unrest arises, Nations collapse, empires collapse, governments topple, wars are waged, mass immigration to Europe or to wherever else. But honestly, there's probably going to be a lot of people who aren't going to be wanting to go to Europe because the cost of living in Europe is going to go through the roof as a result of these insanely high natural gas prices, oil prices. Everybody's talking about austerity wherever you go. And now we have a top U.S. military officer told lawmakers Tuesday that the Russian-Ukraine war will likely last years, and only U.S. troops could have stopped this invasion. The war is raging. Disregard what you're seeing on the media about pullbacks and all this. The war in the Donbass has not slept. It is raging, and it is about to flare up in a massive, massive way. We have ambassadors being expelled from all over Eastern Europe. Okay, we have Greece expelling 12 Russian diplomats after the Bucha incident. We have Luxembourg expelling diplomats. We have Lithuania expelling diplomats. Does this sound to you like the situation is improving? We have talks now of the U.S. government wanting to build military bases. Remember, a week ago, I was sent an anonymous message by somebody who has sent me messages in the past, which have been validated. And they basically said, look, I got wind that there's going to be some contracts I think it was Poland, to build military facilities. Sure enough, it's now coming out today, or at least yesterday, they're asking to build military bases in Poland. People think that this is... I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I really do, because I always am trying to be the devil's advocate with my own relatively pessimistic, I would call it realistic, but relatively pessimistic compared to the norm perspective. And I'm always trying to look for, okay, maybe things are getting better, but they're really not getting better, unfortunately. The world is becoming more divided. This whole trying to color revolution, the Pakistan thing, guys, the lines are being drawn, okay? And they're saying now that food prices could rise by up to 50% as producers continue to face mounting costs. Go and watch that video we made last week about the coming food shortages and all of the factors. I mean, the factors are too numerous to name, but basically it's a perfect storm of everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong and probably will continue to go wronger throughout the rest of the year and beyond. It's a bit early still. When asked by Representative Bill Keating of Massachusetts how long he thought the war could last, Miley responded that it was hard to tell. It's a bit early still, even though we're a month plus into the war. There is much ground war left in Ukraine, he added, but I do think that this is a very protracted conflict, and I think it's at least measured in years. I don't know about a decade, but years for sure. And it's absolutely going to last years, because no matter where Russia decides to concentrate its forces, there's always going to be the threat of remilitarization and in other parts of the country. So they're going to have to take over the country by hook or by crook somehow, whether that means getting buddy-buddy with Zelensky or whatever the case is. Now, something else very interesting has been happening on the front lines. There is a video of these Chechen guys who caught 267 Ukrainian POWs, okay? And they're giving them this speech, guys. And it just occurred to me what was happening there. And their strategy is really to integrate the Ukrainian army into the Russian army. And you got to go and watch that video of 267 captured Ukrainian soldiers being given a speech by these Chechen Russian guys who are, basically saying, yeah, we're all brothers, blah, 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 blah. But they get them to repeat what is being said, okay? And you can see that in this video, there definitely was obviously the threat of coercion in this video, but it also looked like these guys were into the speech that they were hearing. So what this means is that you're going to have a situation now where the objective, it really does start to seem that there's a bigger strategy at work here, and it's to incorporate the Ukrainian military, or whatever is going to be left of it, into the Russian military and actually indoctrinate them into the ideology and bring them into the fold. And this is very important, and this is why all the Baltic states are terrified, because they know that they're potentially next. That if for some reason, if somehow Russia can win the hearts of minds, it seems like an impossibility at this point, but anything is possible in war. It seems like an impossibility, but if they somehow are able to MacGyver to get into the hearts and minds of the people of Ukraine and get them behind them, now that all of this stuff has happened, this decoupling between East and West, then look out. Because then you're talking about guys who are very well experienced in urban combat, looking for something to do. Okay? And you have right now all of these countries in the Baltics that they're starting to realize that, hey, maybe NATO is not going to come to our rescue. You can feel it in the air. You can feel Poland and Latvia and all these countries thinking to themselves, you know, what if they don't come to our rescue? They're worried. They're worried that if things pop off, that this Article 5, which is totally ambiguous, a lot of people think that it's like a hard and fast thing that, you know, right when Russia attacks one country, that all of a sudden U.S. has to start sending fighter jets and nukes and all these things. But that's not how it is. It's very ambiguously written, and a country can intervene however they want to intervene. And so I get the sense that they know this, that they know that if they cannot keep the Russians at bay in Ukraine, they're probably next, and that the U.S. may not come to their aid directly. Now, to play the devil's advocate with that thought, the U.S. is wanting to build military bases in Poland. Is that, though, just going to set it up so that maybe they're going to engage, if the war does spill over into Poland, is the war going to remain limited to Poland? Or, you know, are the nuclear cards going to be played? That really is the question. And we're entering a point where you're having such a concentration of Ukrainian forces in the Donbass that the potential for using tactical nukes, if they feel that they're losing, is very high. Especially when you have like large, I'm not sure exactly what the nature of the groupings are with Ukrainian soldiers, but the potential is there. Now, again, to play the devil's advocate to that thought, if Russia really wanted to take over all of Ukraine, they would have deployed more troops. They're only deploying a fraction of their military, like a fraction, like 1/10 of their military, none of their reserves, while some of their conscripts are in there, but there's almost very little of their military is being deployed. And I mean, I'm not sure exactly why that might be the case. It is hard to say, but it starts to look like they're saving that for something bigger. Okay, now they have obviously, you know, fires that they need to keep down and suppress in other countries where they probably, you know, they don't want to put all of their eggs into the Ukrainian basket, so to speak. But yeah, it's not looking good, guys. It is not looking good. Now, there's also this situation with Kaliningrad. Okay, there's a potential for a major situation to arise in Kaliningrad, which is that satellite state of Russia, which is also the home of their Baltic Navy. And there's talk that there are nuclear weapons in Kaliningrad. Okay, so as the Russian assault on Ukraine rages on, some little-known locations like Transnistria, a pro-Russian breakaway region in Moldova located alongside Ukrainian southwest border, have emerged as critical factors shaping the conflict's long-term prospects. Okay, Kaliningrad has no borders with Russia, also has the Baltic Sea's only ice-free port all year round, carrying the name as the region itself. As a result, the port city is crucial for both Russia and the Baltic states to ensure transportation and trade across the region. Beyond transportation, Kaliningrad is still important to Russia due to its strategic depth. It hosts the country's Baltic fleet and is positioned as the westernmost territory of Moscow. Now, there is talk that they want to put, I can't remember exactly where it is, but they're contemplating putting nuclear weapons in Kaliningrad. And so you need to remember that Russia is right up against Poland and Lithuania with this Kaliningrad state. And of course, feeling threatened by that, there is some suspicion that potentially those countries might want to annex that, or at least try to. Now, of course, if they try to do that, then I guess it's all-out nuclear war, and I really don't know enough about that issue to really speak to it. But, oh man, there's fires flaring up everywhere. Russia's Dmitry Peskov slams Poland for its readiness to host U.S. nuclear weapons. I talked about this the other day. Why would Poland want to host U.S. nuclear weapons? Because they need a deterrent. Okay, they need a deterrent because they know what is coming. Peruvian protesters block highways, clash with police over rising fuel prices. Same thing that's going on in Sri Lanka. In Peru, the shit's hitting the fan. It is royally hitting the fan. When people got nothing left to lose, they lose it, as the saying goes. And we may well, I think we'll probably luck out and we won't see food riots here, but we are going to see a lot of protests. Just watch, because the cost of living is going to go through the roof in the coming months. So much stuff to talk about. This drought situation has improved a little bit in Canada, even though our water tables are still historically low, very low. But we have gotten a bit of moisture. But the worst mega drought is persisting in the U.S. and it's causing a water crisis. Okay, 44 million people across the western United States are experiencing drought, according to Climate Central. The Sierra snowpack is at its lowest point in 70 years, and that translates to the worst mega drought in 1,200 years. So the Colorado River, all these rivers that basically the California relies on to grow all those vegetables that those big cities rely on to power the dams and all this stuff, you know, they're at risk. They're at risk of drying up. We got some other information here, which is a personal message that I received, which is significant because it's a sign of the times, okay? I work in private security in Ohio along with somebody who is based at a police station. I'm not going to say which one. He was telling me that in the past they deal with everything a local cop would, pulling drugs and weapons off people, traffic offenses, but recently was informed by his higher up that they are to focus solely on base security rather than run-of-the-mill offenses. They are not even permitted to bring offenders back to post for processing, rather be issued paperwork on scene and cut loose. I jokingly asked, do they want you to man AA guns? But received no answer. This was odd to him, being that this has never been the case during his entire career. Not sure if it's just standard precautions, but wanted to pass it on. This is just a sign that, you know, they don't have the capacity and they don't have the budget and the manpower to do proper policing anymore. It's just the crime is going to get out of control as the cost of living increases. Okay. Another email here indicating that I'm working on a regenerative farm near Ramstein, Germany. Although I'm here yet for 9 months, I've only here for 9 months. I think it's fair to say that military activity has clearly increased over the past month, which is, you know, I think that's a given at this point. Yeah. So, you know, military movements around the world. North Korea is threatening to nuke South Korea. What else is new there? I guess there's just so much craziness going on, guys, that I would strongly encourage people to to keep on preparing, to keep on stockpiling whatever you can, but at the same time, don't let your life go. You know, time is the most precious commodity we have next to food and water. And, you know, spend time with your loved ones, enjoy your loved ones. Don't get too hung up on this stuff. But yeah, you know, it's safe to say that, you know, making investment in preps, and especially prepping items, because lots of prepping supplies, whether it's just knives or backpacks or water filters, medical kits, things like that. These are things that are never going to go bad. Some of the constituents of the medical kit might, but the majority of prepping stuff is built to last. It's very analog. Unless you're talking about solar, and even solar, a lot of solar panels are built pretty tough and are built to last a significant amount of time. Now, when you get into the realm of electronics, that's when you start to see the degradation and the planned obsolescence model come into play, and the rapid deflation of those items. But everything else is only going to increase in price. If you buy a knife today, I can guarantee you that knife is going to be a lot more in the future, especially with the East-West decoupling, because a lot of that stuff is made in China. So if there's stuff that's made in China that you want, get it now. Because you know what? I think we're very close. We are very, very close to China saying, you know what? We can sell these products elsewhere. We don't need the American consumer anymore. And when that happens, there's going to be blood in the streets. So time is of the essence. Stay prepped, stay ready. And yeah, I would still encourage people. I know the price of gold has been teetering. It's still high. But it hasn't hit that high of 2050. I still think it's one of the most sound investments there is right now. And this is not financial advice, but I personally bought some gold throughout the past couple months. Of course, I was buying gold years ago. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. And, you know, precious metals, but if you don't have that kind of disposable income, just focus on food. If you do have a bit more disposable income, focus on freeze-dried food. But yeah, you can't go wrong with storing hard commodities right now, because that's what real wealth is. And we're about to find out. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Canadian Prepper out. Oh, and I'm probably going to have released a video before this that talks about one of the #1 things that almost nobody thinks about having to deal with after shit hits the fan. So go and check that video out, guys. Take care. Stay safe. Enjoy your life.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.